Turn to reasonable doubt. Can crime labs be trusted?
You ready?
And this is my first time as a tattoo artist.
But I trust her.
Jimmy Ray Bromgard's fiancée is putting the finishing touch on a one-of-a-kind reminder of his life behind bars.
All the years I did in prison, starting with June 1987 and then 88, 89, 90, 91, 92. And LaShawn is going to put October 1st, 2002 on there, which is the day that our old lives ended and our new lives started. That's when I got released, so.
It was the end of a 15-year nightmare that began with a police lineup in Billings, Montana.
See, I was the only one wearing green in this whole thing. That's Detective Chuck Regan. He was...
At the time, 19-year-old Bromgard was serving 20 days for a misdemeanor, fighting at school.
They asked if I wanted to be in the lineup. It's like, all right, gets me out of the cell. They didn't tell me why. They just gave us a piece of paper, and we had to read these lines that said, shut up or else I'll kill you.
Subject number 5, one step forward.
An 8-year-old girl picked out Bromgard as the man who assaulted her. He was charged with rape. At trial, the child testified she was unsure Bromgard was her attacker, but apparently the forensic evidence was compelling.
This is the third day of my trial, and the jurors, they said that several of the jurors were convinced I was guilty the second day of my trial, and it was a 3-day trial.
The second day was the day Arnold Melnikoff testified. Melnikoff was the founder and manager of Montana's State Crime Laboratory. He testified that hairs taken from Bromgard and hairs from the crime scene were almost indistinguishable and microscopically similar. He also told the jury there was little chance, based on statistics, that the crime scene hair came from anyone other than Bromgard.
He gave these numbers that it was a 1 in 10,000 chance that it wasn't me that did it. He said, more or less, he told the jury, this has to be the guy that did it.
The jury took about an hour to reach a guilty verdict. Bromgard was handed 3 concurrent 40-year sentences and shipped off to state prison.
And then they put me out in general population where I got my jaw broke for being a child molester.
Bromgard spent a lot of time in lockdown. In his cell, 23 hours a day.
The first time was for like 9 months, then 12 months, then 15 months, something like that.
He did file appeals, but to no avail.
My discharge date was 2025, and I didn't really ever plan on getting out of prison.
Then, in 2000, he saw a story on TV about the Innocence Project, a group of lawyers who got convictions overturned by retesting evidence. Bromgard asked his attorney to contact them.
We took on the case, and we filed a motion in court in Billings, Montana, and a judge ordered post-conviction DNA testing.
The DNA results were startling. They proved Bromgard was innocent.
Defendant was released forthwith.
Bromgard was free, but Peter Neufeld wanted to know what had gone wrong. He asked a panel of experts to review Melnikoff's testimony. One of the experts was Harold Dedman, a former FBI hair examiner who teaches forensics at George Washington University. Dedman told CNN that numerous mistakes in hair analysis have been uncovered around the country.
There are many laboratories where individuals are put into the position of doing hair comparisons with very little training.
Surprisingly, hair examiners, like fingerprint examiners, are largely unregulated. In all but a few states, all it takes to testify is a judge's okay. In the Jimmy Ray Bromgard case, the expert's assessment of Crime Lab Director Melnikoff's testimony was blunt.
Egregious misstatements, not only of the science of forensic hair examinations, but also of genetics and statistics.
As for Melnikoff's statistic of a 1 in 10,000 chance the hairs were not Bromgard's, the experts said there is not, and never was, a scientific basis to make any such calculation. Melnikoff declined to be interviewed, but his attorney, Rocky Trapidi, sat down with CNN. He says his client now admits his calculations were off.
That may not be the exact mathematical approach that one should take to reach that probability.
Neufeld wanted to know if the problem was more than bad statistics. He convinced the district attorney to send the actual hairs to FBI experts. They concluded the crime scene hairs could not possibly have come from Bromgard.
They said Melnikoff got it all wrong. In fact, the FBI said that head hair looks like it could have come from the little girl.
According to his own testimony, Melnikoff had evaluated hair in as many as 700 investigations. Neufeld, worried there might be other wrongful convictions, did a computer search and came across 2 cases. In one case, DNA tests had resulted in a conviction overturned, just like Bromgard's. In the other case, DNA tests had not been done. Neufeld contacted the convicted man and had the 14-year-old evidence tested.
We did the DNA testing. Sure enough, he was excluded and exonerated as well.
Neufeld also contacted the Attorney General's office in Washington State, where Melnikoff worked after leaving Montana. The state police had experts review a sample of Melnikoff's work. Their conclusion, though his results were correct, his methods were badly flawed. The report charged him with neglect of duty, incompetence, gross misconduct, and violation of agency rules. Melnikoff's attorney says the state's review was conducted improperly.
Those are bogus findings, quite simply. They don't have anything to pin that on. That's certainly what their report says, but that isn't what the facts say.
Washington State Patrol officials tell CNN they stand by their report. Based on their finding that his testimony in Montana was erroneous, they dismissed Melnikoff in 2004. He is appealing his dismissal.
His credibility, not only to the scientific community, but also with inside the justice system here, and for the Washington State Patrol, was in jeopardy. And we felt that this was the appropriate measure to take.
The shoddy work of one forensic scientist can affect hundreds, even thousands of cases. Melnikoff had been a forensic scientist for 30 years before anyone started questioning his methods and results, and his long career is not unique.
I've devoted my entire career to that job.
Joyce Gilchrist collected and analyzed evidence for the Oklahoma City Police for 21 years before her mistakes were caught. After a judge criticized her testimony, FBI and internal police reviews turned up problem after problem with Gilchrist's work. Her misidentification of hairs helped send Jeffrey Pierce to prison. Pierce is one of at least 3 men whose convictions have been overturned. One of them was on death row. Gilchrist was fired in 2001. Now hundreds of cases spanning 2 decades have to be reviewed. Gilchrist declined to speak with CNN, but her attorney maintained she did nothing wrong.
No comments.
In West Virginia, Fred Zane got away with 12 years of sloppy work and false testimony in a crime lab before DNA testing caught up with him. The state invalidated his entire body of work.
Gerald Davis may soon be a free man.
Zane's work helped put at least 6 men in prison erroneously, in 2 states. He was indicted for false testimony, but died before he could be brought to trial. There's no way of knowing how many other Fred Zanes are out there.
The way we assess professionalism is by having rigorous proficiency testing, quality assurance programs, meaningful audits. We don't have any of those in place. You can take a 2-week course and declare yourself an expert and get hired and make life and death decisions.